Today, we're getting brutally honest and talking about 4 things that youth ministry can teach you about yourself.
Welcome to the Ministry Coach Podcast, where we do what, Kristen?
We bring you weekly tips and tactics to help you fast track the growth and health of your youth ministry. My name is Kristen Lascola, and this is
Jeffrey Lascola. And today we're
One Take. Did you notice that?
The outtakes will tell a different story at the end.
Nobody watches those.
Hey, we're going to talk all about the brutal, honest truth about youth ministry today.
Yes. Well, the brutal, honest truth about what it teaches you about yourself.
That's right.
And there are so many things. So what does youth ministry teach you about yourself? We could probably write a book on it. But today we're going to focus on 4 things. And I would say these are kind of like sobering, and I'm sure a lot of people have experienced them. And if not, if you're new, you probably will experience them at some point. And I think the reason we want to shed light on them today is because I just want you to feel normal, that if you are struggling with some of these things, that it's okay. And it's part of the process, part of the journey, part of youth ministry. And it doesn't mean you're not doing well. It just means that we all have some growing to do.
Yeah.
And the longer you're in it, the more you'll see these things. So, number 1, youth ministry will teach you this about yourself, is how well you handle criticism and conflict. I'm just going to lump those 2 together in number 1, criticism and conflict, because both will be in high quantities when you are in this job. You will face
From who? Students, leaders?
You name it. Everybody.
Parents?
Everyone. So let's talk about criticism for a second. Criticism will come. It's inevitable, no matter what your job is, right? So no matter what your job is, criticism's going to come. There's just no way around it. But as a youth pastor, we're in a unique leadership position where everything we do and everything we are is constantly on display. And we have a lot of audiences, and all those audiences have opinions. So like you were saying, staff, sure. Leaders, sure. Parents, yup. Students, you bet. So all of the above will share their opinions with you. And sometimes they will be good opinions. And sometimes we will have to take a deep breath, because one of the best pieces of advice for ministry I've ever gotten, and I think we've shared this before, it was from Chris Brown, and it was
Quit.
No. Well, yes, he did say quit.
Quit while you're behind.
He said, no, he didn't just say quit. He's like, if you can do anything else in life or want to do anything else in life, go do that. But if you've got to do youth ministry, buckle up, buttercup. So, so he says, in order to make it in ministry, you have to have a thick skin and a tender heart. And those 2 things existing together, we don't want to be so thick-skinned that we're impenetrable and callous, but we can't let every comment take us down and take us out, because you will get criticism about your messages. Your message sucked. Your message was boring. By the way, a lot of these I've heard directly to my face. And so I'm going to share these.
And ironically, you have tender skin and a thick heart due to hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
Nerd.
That is medically a medically
Yeah.
induced dad joke.
Okay, thanks.
Something
Nobody gets it. Basically, I have a heart condition where my heart's super thick. And that's what Jeff's talking
Why have
about.
I never thought of that before? It's brilliant.
Yeah. Maybe you feel like you're too young. Maybe you get criticism because of your age. Maybe you feel too old. I think there's like, where is the sweet spot in ministry where nobody's going to criticize you for being too young or too old? I think and it's relative. If you're 22, a 12-year-old thinks you're old.
Right.
If you're 22, a 50-year-old thinks you're too young.
Also, a 12-year-old doesn't know the difference between like 80 and 22.
That's true.
And
They
they'll be-
have a very wide range
Yeah.
of age guesses.
So they can either really flatter you or the absolute opposite, make you feel like a complete idiot.
Yeah, and not just about your messages and what you do. Students will straight up tell you like, this game is boring. This event sucks. This is boring. Like, why did you do that? I hate this song. Why'd you use this song?
Yeah.
So they're very opinionated. I've even had a girl look at me and say, "You look better with makeup on." I'm like, oh.
I'm wearing makeup.
A lot of makeup. Thank you. That was whoa. And then she proceeded to get the other people's opinion. You guys.
Gather around, everyone.
Doesn't she look better with makeup on? I'm like, I am such a spectacle and I'm so embarrassed right now. I've had students criticize, like, they'll say, my other youth group was more fun. I'm like, cool.
Tell them I
Thank you.
said hi when you go there next week. Get out of here. Bye.
Your design sucks. That logo sucks. This looks bad. Like,
And every camp, last year's was more fun.
Yeah. And then my high schoolers love when they graduate, they'll be like, does anyone even go to youth group anymore? Yes, they do. Just because you left doesn't mean everything fell apart. And then for my girls out there, you get a lot of criticism for being a girl. I don't get it from my students because they don't know any different. Like, they've just grown up like women are in leadership at our church. And it's,
What about YouTube trolls?
I wasn't going to go there, but you wanted to. That's fine. It's fine.
We see you every now and then.
Is that your troll voice? That was good.
Sure.
Okay, so criticism will come in all forms, and some of it will hurt.
Yeah.
And some of it, like how we handle criticism, says a lot about us. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But sometimes it just can roll off our back and we're like, whatever. Like, I don't care what an 11-year-old thinks of the song I chose for the winter camp video. But sometimes it does hurt,
Yeah.
and you think like you gave a really good message, and like a 7th grade boy comes up to you and says, that was the most boring message I've ever heard in my life. I don't even know what you're talking about. And you're like, okay, still sings 3 years later. And then what else? We're talking about criticism, but then also conflict. I feel like those two go together because they're sort of negative and they will always be there. And so I feel like youth ministry tells you a lot about how you handle conflict. So do you get defensive? Do you avoid it? Do you get insecure, or do you admit what you've done wrong? And I think every time you enter a conflict, it's cool to be able to stop and say, like, how did I handle that? And how did I want to do that better? Because I think it reveals a lot about our level of maturity and how we handle conflict. And the hope would be over the years, you get better and better and better at it. I once heard someone say, when it comes to conflict, always go toward it. Just do it. Just go toward it.
Punch him in the face.
Just punch them, kick them. Yeah. But just, it's like, all right, here we go. And you take initiative. You take the first move. And I said initiative weird. Did you catch that?
No.
Initiative. But it's like, I feel like whoever begins or initiates almost has the upper hand, not in the sense of control, but in integrity and in character. Like, I was not going to avoid this. I'm brave enough to address this head on. And I think that's something that comes over time. But when you're backed into a corner and there's conflict, how do you respond? I think youth ministry taught me a lot about how I respond to conflict. And I'd say in my earlier years, I was really afraid of it and would probably resort to just talking about it after, but not addressing it with the person. And the hope is we're always moving, and we're going to talk about that in a second too, like moving toward growth in those areas. But think of maybe your last conflict. That's what I would say. What was your last conflict that was maybe kept you up at night or left, when you just feel yucky after a conversation, and just think, how could I handle that better?
Yeah.
Where did I do really well? And what did I learn? I think we have to be in that constant state of self-assessment with those things to just say, because these are the things, and here's why this is important. These are the things that are the building blocks of your character, your reputation and your image. Don't underestimate your image in youth ministry. And it is built upon all of these things: how we treat people, how we do conflict, how we accept criticism. All of those things will amount to how we are perceived by people. And so it is important how we act. Are we always acting as a leader? And the leader can take criticism. A leader can handle conflict. And so those are the areas that I really had to grow in. So number 2, what youth ministry is going to teach you about yourself is your deepest insecurities. No big.
That comes straight from those precious little angel students.
Or parents or
True.
staff or whatever. So those insecurities can come. It's because we are on display. Our leadership is on display. Our teaching's on display. Our life is on display. And it will sort of reveal where we're insecure, and not necessarily because, I mean, people will point out things. We already talked about that with criticism, but you will be put in situations that test your security. So for example, you're working on a project with somebody and they get all the credit, like, how do you respond? Are you secure enough to say, hey, it's a win? The team won. Maybe they have the only name mentioned. I think in ministry, jealousy is a very big problem. Jealousy among youth pastors internally in the same church. Why did they get a teaching opportunity? Oh, why did they get a shout out from the stage? Or why did they get accolades and I didn't? I think that's a really big thing. It plays on that insecurity of I'm not good enough, my ministry's not good enough. But then we compare ourselves externally too. We're very insecure, like that kid, oh, my other youth group was more fun, but we love it when they say it the other way around.
Right.
Like, oh, my other church was lame, I'm so glad I came here. You're like, oh my gosh, we have a place for you, I'm so happy. But like on the flip side, it's just like, oh, like dagger in the heart, because we take everything very personally. We take it as a reflection of us and our leadership. And so that insecurity, I think what youth pastors are secretly always saying is, do you like me? Do you like the ministry? Do you like what I've done? Because it really is like if a musician playing a song, like they want people to like the product, and our song is our youth ministry. It's our design, what we've done, the decisions we made, the vibe we're trying to create, the messages and the growth. And we're putting our heart and soul into this and then kind of waiting, like, please somebody like it. And so when they don't, it feels personal because it's mostly our ideas.
That can even come too from just you put this so much effort and time and energy into this event that you think is going to be so great, and it's crickets. No one shows up.
Yeah.
And it's hard to not take that personally, because you think like, well, the event seemed awesome, so was it me? That's,
I know. And you can really play these mind games, and you just will be in these situations where your insecurities come to the surface. Like, oh, I never knew I was an insecure person, but now, like one situation that used to make me really insecure, and I say used to, it still does. I hate when I am a breakout and you're
like
waiting
at a conference or something.
Like sometimes we'll do these things like in the summer where they're called summer seminars, and there's 2 speakers and the kids can choose which person they want to go to. Our high school does it. So it's like, oh, Jeff is speaking on how he was once a drug addict and now it's part of his testimony, and Jesus, this is not
and
true.
I'm still a drug addict. Oh wait, no.
But it's like this cool testimony. And then it's like, oh, and Kristen's speaking on spiritual disciplines, it's like, womp, womp. And then you go to this really happened to me. This guy had this like gritty, intense testimony.
There I was, saving the lady from the burning building while high on heroin.
Yeah. And then
you're like,
there's
I need to hear more.
Boring person over there like, hey, I'm going to be talking
learning about
worldview.
Getting to know God better. Boo.
But then if nobody comes to your breakout or your session or your seminar, if they have a lot of speakers to choose from, every time I still kind of hold my breath. Like if I'm teaching at a school or a camp or a youth group and they have multiple choice speakers, I feel so insecure of like, somebody please come in my room.
Right.
And And I hate that I feel so good when I have a ton of people,
Right.
oh, you chose me, and we can make it like a
And that's what it
more.
doesn't matter. You're like, you guys, it really doesn't matter where you go.
Exactly. It's easy to say that when all the kids are in your seminar and you're feeling really good about yourself. Or even when I became a mom, I remember feeling like, oh, well, there goes my cool card. I'm not cool anymore. I'm just officially an adult.
Yeah, you're not a regular mom, though. You're a cool mom.
But I just remember thinking like guys can get away with being like, I'm a youth pastor and a dad, and like it's funny and like, wow, like I tell cool stories about my kids and stuff. But then I thought, like, does that same coolness translate if you're like, I'm a mom and I'm a youth pastor? Or does it feel
I talk really weird now.
or does it feel just like womp womp? We're hanging out with mom on a Tuesday night. But luckily, that was just in my head. And I feel like becoming a mother has made me a way better youth pastor, which was cool. But in the beginning, I was very insecure of just like, oh no, like all I need is a minivan and I'm out, but the junior hires, they didn't care. But it's weird what gets into our head and makes us feel insecure. So whether you're old or young, male or female, single, married, parent, not, just learning, there's always something there that's going to make us feel insecure. And those are the ones where you have to pause and say, why is this messing with me?
Yeah.
And because it's always revealing something, And so I feel like same with the criticisms, you have to pause on those insecurities and try to get to the bottom and do some heart work and some God work on like, why do I feel like becoming a mom makes me not cool in front of the kids anymore? Like, what is that? Like, what are those things that can like coexist? Like, have I seen someone do this and do this well? Or what image do I have in my head that's a lie that I just saw somewhere? And it's like, well, that's not you, that's somebody else, like trying to get to the bottom of like, are these things founded in any truth, or are they just totally fabricated in a weird thing for me?
Yeah, 100%.
To help you move past it. All right. So number 3, youth ministry will reveal your level of emotional and spiritual maturity. And I feel like that kind of encompasses sort of what we've just been talking about. But I think this is more of like the nuts and bolts of like, how are you actually handling stuff? So this isn't like, just how do I feel about things, but like, how are you handling them? So your emotional maturity, when somebody gets extremely angry at you and is yelling at you, what is your emotional maturity like? Do you just yell right back and you try to flex and toughen up and, one up them? Or can you diffuse the situation because you have the emotional maturity to stay calm? That's a good example of emotional maturity. How do you receive the criticism we were talking about? Do you just dismiss it and say, oh, they don't know what they're talking about? Or do you try to sit in it and say, why would this person say this? Is there any truth to it? Because sometimes there is. We talk about criticism of like, don't let it get to you. But you know what? Sometimes there's truth. And we have to come to grips with, is there some truth here? And can I evaluate where the truth is and then accept it? That's an emotionally mature response. Or, when you want to gossip or talk about, other people that you're angry with on staff or in your leadership team or whatever, be careful. That stuff will always come back to bite you. And that shows a lack of emotional maturity. I've seen people like storm out of meetings before because they didn't like what was happening or being said. Again, lack of emotional maturity. So the way you're conducting yourself, that's a pause of like, how emotionally mature am I? And I remember having a prayer, just to be really honest, for years, that God would grow me in that area of maturity. Like I wanted to be like a really rock solid leader that could handle difficult people, that could handle really hard situations, that could handle someone yelling at me, that could handle my feelings being hurt, but being able to move beyond it, that I could handle disappointment and anger without retaliation. And I just prayed and prayed because I saw it in somebody I worked with. And I was like, man, he just has such a solid maturity about him. And it was very like, it made me just respect him so much. And I thought, man, God, like I really want that same level of maturity. And of course, we have to talk about spiritual maturity too, because man, like I just said, being a mom has made me a better youth pastor. Being a student of the Word of God and being genuinely interested in it, whether I'm teaching a passage or not, has made me such a better youth pastor. So my spiritual maturity, my spiritual growth makes me such a better teacher. And the reason for that is a lot of times I'll prepare a message and then what I actually say and what's prepared on paper are different. Because as I'm speaking it out loud, a million things I've been studying and learning come together and just come out in what I say and make my messages way better. But I always have like this spiritual growth goal. I'm always learning and growing and trying to absorb more and see things in different ways and, you know, like grow myself and my relationship with God. And it makes me such a better youth pastor, such a better teacher, such a better leader. And if you are not doing those things, youth ministry will reveal that to you, because your teaching probably will be pretty shallow, because you will like have to go off your notes, and the quality of those notes, I mean, who knows? It depends, you know, but it's like, do you have enough spiritual depth to just be able to talk about spiritual things without a ton of notes, you know? And that comes with time, but it just presents this point of, what is your spiritual growth plan? You know, is it like study message, study message, study message, or are you spiritually dynamic in all areas of your life? You know, because that'll trickle into everything. It'll trickle into your teaching, your leadership, your decision-making, all of it.
Yeah.
All right. And fourth and finally, youth ministry will reveal to you your bandwidth and your capacity. So I feel like no matter what stage of youth pastor you are, new, been around for a while, or been around for a long, long time, there's things about your job that overwhelm you. But the point is, I hope that the things that overwhelmed you 1 or 2 years ago don't overwhelm you anymore. Like I look back at the very beginning and it's like, oh my gosh, I have to teach this weekend. And it wasn't even the weekend. It was like just an intro on a midweek program, like a 15-minute message. I'd be like, I got to get out of the office and prepare, go to a coffee shop and really study.
Nobody talk to me.
Yes. Like I would freak out. I'd be so, or if I had to write curriculum, like I'd have to write a discussion sheet that followed my message. I'd be like, I'm going to need 3 hours, you guys. Oh, like I'd be so overwhelmed. Or if I had to make a logo for something, or if I had to do conflict or make a parent phone call, I'd be like freaking out. And so my bandwidth was smaller. My capacity was smaller. But as you do those things and as you get comfortable with them, here's the encouraging part, is that those things become like a muscle that you work, and it's really no big deal anymore. And so I can do so much more than I used to be able to do, because those little things like, a 15-minute message, I got this.
Yeah.
You know, my sermon prep is much simpler than it used to be, because of all the spiritual growth over the last billions of years, right? Writing a talk sheet no longer is like, I know I got my system down, you know, I can do it very easily. Calling a parent, I just go in with confidence and just, you know, an understanding and humility, and think to myself, how do we create a raving fan after, you know? So I have my systems down, where, you know, me at, you know, 20 years old, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to call this parent. What am I going to do? And so you will start to see what your bandwidth is, what your capacity is. And all that to say, the goal is not to be super overwhelmed in the moment, but know that the more you do these things, they'll have less power over you in the negative sense, that it's like you won't dread things anymore, hopefully, but they become routine, they become easy, and then you can increase your bandwidth next year. And like, hey, it doesn't take me 3 hours to write a talk sheet anymore. It takes me 30 minutes. So now, I can launch another program or do something cool or spend a little more time with this or take a leader out to coffee. I used to feel so strapped for time. And I'm like, how? I was single and had no kids. And like, how did I feel? It's because I had a short bandwidth. I had low capacity, and over time your capacity just has to grow. So just let that be a part of the process. Let it grow, and just don't be discouraged if you feel overwhelmed. Know that you will have more wiggle room in the future because you'll be better at the things that just suck the life out of you right now.
Yeah.
It won't always be that way.
I think it's also important to identify how you react to a lot of those things, how it impacts you, and learn from it, grow from it, but also accept it. Don't try and, just hide it and say like, I just don't deal with that well, so I'm just not going to deal with it at all. But I think is to kind of be aware of it and maybe kind of watch yourself grow, over time, but you realize, okay, this is something I kind of struggle in. How can I get better?
Right.
Because I feel like unless you're going to plan on making steps towards that, it's not going to happen on its own.
Yeah. And the proficiency, like you'll get more proficient in your job. And so your tolerance for work and your proficiency in work will both increase, and it'll be okay. Yeah. So that's it.
Well, make sure you guys put in the comment section below, what are some of the brutally honest truths that youth ministry has taught you, whether you're new or have you been doing it for a long time. Now, let's play the Fabulous Four trivia game. Yay! Is that better?
I was about to go yay, and then you went yay, so I kind of followed like yay.
It's time for some fun. Let's play the Fabulous Four trivia game. Yay!
All right, so this is from me to Jeff. These are.
But you need to play too.
Yeah.
The listener.
Yeah,
the
the
viewer.
Listeners.
Watchers.
These are brand logo. No, sorry, not logo.
Strike that, reverse it.
These are slogans, brand slogans.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to say the slogan and you have to say the brand. Okay? Number 1. Bet you...
With the body. I don't know that one.
Bet you can't eat just one.
Oh, man.
You should know this.
I know I should. I'm gonna say Pringles. I don't think that's right.
Ooh, that is very close. It is Lay's potato chips. But yeah.
I think Pringles is once you pop, you can't stop.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's try number 2. I picked this because I thought you would be able to get it.
You'd be wrong, probably.
The best a man can get.
Gillette?
Good.
Yes.
Do you use Gillette?
I'm sure I do.
All right.
Yeah, my razors.
Get your own box.
Get your own box. UPS. I have no idea.
Cheez-Its. All right. And number 4.
1 for 3.
That was easy.
Staples?
Good. Okay. All right.
I could picture the easy button.
Yeah. I used to use that for a game buzzer.
Were they loud? Or could you actually hear it?
No.
Was it the light up?
It just went, that was easy. So, I mean, I was on a shoestring budget. I thought that was a creative
do what
thing.
you have to.
Yeah.
All right, let's do a community comment of the day. This comes from the Jade Jedi, a.k.a. Luke. Thank you, Luke. Who says, I still love your podcast and I am so grateful for the many resources and others have provided. As a new youth pastor I started this time last year, your podcast has helped tremendously and my youth group has doubled in size.
Whoa.
And the teens are inviting their friends every week. Praise God.
Woo,
you
Jedi
are right,
powers.
Sir. Praise God. That is awesome.
That's
Good to
rad.
hear.
Ooh, I like those stories. Doubled in size. That's awesome.
It could have been 2 kids and he's now at 4, but still. No, he's got more than that. He emailed us not long ago and he said, I can't remember his numbers, but they were much more than that. So
wow,
that's good.
That's awesome. Woo.
Thanks, Luke. Appreciate it. And we thank you guys for watching and listening. Make sure you comment below how many you got right of the 4 slogans. What did I end up doing? 2 out of 4?
Yeah.
a solid F. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.
We bring you weekly tips and tactics to help you fast track the growth and health of your youth ministry. My name is Jeff Lascola.
And I'm Kristen Doofus.
Of your youth ministry. My name is Jeff Lascola. I mean, Kristen Lascola.
And today we're going to go over how you can take, I don't know.